Hello Stampers, this is Yana Smakula for My Favorite Things. Welcome back for another video tutorial. In this video, I'm creating a paper hug with the help of My Favorite Things Crafty Friends stamp set. I can never resist a stamp set with images of craft supplies. And this one hits in all the right spots. You have 6 critters all working together to create that one-of-a-kind handmade goodness. I started to work on my card by doing my stamping first. Here I have my Mini Misty stamping tool. I have a sheet of Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my little critters onto the panel so that I can do some coloring. I'm using alcohol marker friendly ink to do my stamping, as I will be coloring these using Copics. Now you'd think that these are all identical critters, or like one type of critter holding different supplies. At least that's what I thought. But in fact, these are all different critters. I mean, if you look closely, you'll probably realize that these are all different. I did not, at least not until I went to the website and not until I read the description. So we have beaver with glue, bunny with paintbrush, dog with a card, squirrel with scissors, chick with ribbon, and cat with a marker. My favorite, by the way, is the dog with a card. I think he is just utterly adorable. Now, all of these images are super cute, and if you watched my previous video, I did one where I used grids to make a card, and these images would work perfectly for a grid, so I'm actually going to do that again, but I'm going to do a slightly different grid. I'm going to do a 2x3. Now, I am going to use all 6 of these critters, but I will use the 6th one on the inside of my card, and I will replace one of the critters or one of the elements of my grid with a sentiment. Okay, with the stamping done, we can move on to coloring. I decided I wanted all of these craft supplies to be pink. So I kind of settled on a color combo for this card, if you will. I am not good at coloring critters. I love to look at how other people color critters, but whenever I try to color critters, my coloring is never that good. So whenever I create with critters, I try to keep my coloring to a bare minimum and do the most basic, the most simple coloring. So you'll see that all of my critters are white with just a little bit of shading added using a gray marker. Instead, I just focused on coloring the craft supplies. So I picked pinks because, who does not love pink craft supplies? So I picked pink colors, and I used the same pink markers to color all of these craft supplies. First of all, I colored the inside of the card pink, and you'll see that this card, the card that I'm making in this video, is also going to be pink on the inside. I will use pink colored cardstock for the card base, and I'll just have a white card front. So when you look on that card from the outside, you'll think that it's white, but when you open it, you'll see that it is pink. So exactly the same as the card that the dog is holding. So as for the pinks, I'm using my go-to Copic colors. I have RV14, RV13, RV11, and sometimes I will go into RV10. I'm also using gray markers to add a little bit of shading to the white areas, especially the C1, the C3, C5, and C7. I'm adding blush using an R20 marker. I want these critters to have a little bit of blush on their cheeks, and don't they just look adorable? I mean, look at these cute pink scissors. Now, if you want, you can absolutely color these to have a natural color, meaning you can color your chick yellow and then your squirrel brown or black or orange, maybe have a black or an orange cat. You can totally do that. Like I said, me, not a pro when it comes to coloring critters, so I just do the most basic, the most simple thing. If you want to see examples, be sure to go to the My Favorite Things website, because there are a lot of different examples of how these can be colored. There are also a lot of different card examples, and they're very inspiring, so I encourage you to check them out. Now, I also used brown markers to color the paintbrush, and here I started with E37 as my lightest brown, and then I used E79 as my darker brown. Again, not doing anything fancy here, just using 2 brown markers, a lighter and a darker one, and creating a little bit of shadow. I'm going to use pink once again to color the paint on the paintbrush, just so that it goes with the rest of the coloring. And then using gray markers to color the rest of my paintbrush gray. The cat is holding a marker, and that's of course going to be a pink marker. Let's pretend that this is Copic RV14, right? Because I do like that color. So the cat is holding a marker. The marker, of course, is gray. I'm going to use a little bit of gray to color the rest of the marker image. I'm actually going to keep it white and just add a little bit of shadow using the C1 Copic marker. You can easily change the color of this card. For example, if your crafty friend likes a different color, I have a friend, she likes olive green. You can definitely color all of these craft supplies that color to match her preference if you are making this card for a specific crafty friend in mind, that is. Okay, we also have Chick holding a ribbon, and the ribbon is also going to be pink. Once again, I'm using my RV14, RV13, and RV11 markers to color the ribbon spool pink. And I just love the way this looks. Going back to my gray markers to add just a little bit of shadow, and we are almost done. Just using RV04 to add a little bit of orange to the beak, to the hair, I guess, and to the feet. Beaver is holding a glue bottle, and to me, that's Barely Arts glue because that's the glue that I always use. Now, Barely Arts glue bottle is not pink, but that does not mean that I cannot make this glue bottle pink. So again, using the same pink colors as before and coloring this glue pink. With the coloring done, I am using a jelly roll pen. This is Sakura jelly roll pen in size 0.8, and I'm adding lots and lots of highlights to my critters. Now, the key to adding highlight in the right spot is you want to make sure you add it over the darkest area or the area where you've used your darker color. That's where the highlight stands out the most prominently, and that's where it makes the most sense. So I'm just going over my images and adding highlights where I can fit them, especially adding highlights to the pink craft supplies. And you can see that the highlight instantly changes the way the image looks. It somehow adds dimension, and it also somehow adds interest to the image. So if you've never tried adding a highlight to your colored images, be sure to try that. With all of that coloring and highlighting done, I decided that I needed to actually stamp something on the front of that card that the dog is holding. So I placed the panel back inside my MISTI. I looked through my stamp sets to find a small enough image and also an image that would make sense on the front of that card. And I found a darling little flower in a Little Rascal stamp set from My Favorite Things. And I stamped that flower using the same Copic marker friendly ink right in the center of that tiny little handmade card. I once again used my Copic markers. Again, I'm using pinks here to color the flowers pink, and then using yellow to add a yellow flower center, and going with green colors, of course, to color the leaves green. Now, there are coordinating dies available for these, so I cut my cuties out using dies in my Platinum 6 die cutting and embossing machine. I have already pre-planned card design, and what I have here is I have 5 critters and a sentiment. And my sentiment reads, "Hey crafty friend, sending you a paper hug." I'm going to stamp the sentiment in the center of the left column. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is my favorite black ink for stamping sentiments. Just going to stamp that onto my panel. The panel is cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Next, I'm going to create a card base. So here I have a sheet of pink cardstock. I really like this color. I like how vibrant it is. And I also feel like this particular color goes super well with that RV14 marker that I used for most of my coloring. So I scored this panel to create an A2 side folding card base. So it measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I've adhered my sentiment panel on top. So now my card looks like it is a white card. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to foam mount the critters onto my card to complete that grid. So like I said, And for this time I'm creating a 2x3 grid. Be sure to watch my previous video where I did a 2x2 grid and I emphasized it using colored cardstock. So I have my crafty squad ready. They're holding craft supplies, they're having fun, they're crafting, they're making this darling little card. I'm using a Copic marker at the tip of the marker that the cat is holding, just because I want that color on the card base. I want it to look like there's color coming from that marker. And check it out. Doesn't that look cool? I absolutely love the way this looks. Now, let's not forget that last critter. We have a chick, and the chick is holding ribbon. So we're going to add the chick inside the card and also add a little sub-sentiment on the inside. Once again, I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'm stamping my sub-sentiment. It reads, "You inspire me." And then I'm adding my chick using glue. I don't want to add any foam adhesive to the inside of the card. Otherwise, foam adhesive will prevent the card from closing. And here's a look at our project. I absolutely love the way this turned out. This is such a fun stamp set to play with. I hope you feel inspired to create. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you again next time.